when I got pregnant with Ray, my mom was quite upset because I'd had so many challenges with, when Janice was born, she broke my tailbone, and I had blood clots in both legs. I was down for 8 weeks.
Put it through the ringer, didn't you, girl?
She just came out so fast it broke my tailbone. But so anyway, then when I got pregnant with Ray, Mother says, wait 3 years instead of 2 years between each child and let your body get well. And so after Ray was born, I was going to wait 3 years. Well, after a while, I started hearing this little voice on my right shoulder that says, I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. And just ever so often I'd hear that voice say, I'm waiting on you. And finally I thought, well, I'll tell Al about it and see what he says. And
oh, I can agree with that.
And so I immediately got pregnant with Brian. But I heard your spirit for several months before.
I was annoyed then, and I haven't changed a bit.
And you haven't changed a bit.
Are you sure that wasn't me and he just cut in line?
And then, after Diane was born, the doctor said, you really should not have any more children. Your physical body is just not up to having any more children. And so I prayed and I asked for a priesthood blessing, and my dad and Al gave me the blessing and promised me that I would know what the Lord wanted me to do, but didn't tell me what he wanted me to do. So I fasted off and on and prayed fervently and studied my scriptures for 8 months. No answer. Just kept pleading with the Lord, tell me what to do. If this is all that we're supposed to have, okay, and if not, I want to know. One day, I was walking down the hallway at church, and it was a weekday Relief Society day, but everybody was in a meeting, and I was walking down by myself. And all of a sudden, I actually heard a voice right here at my right shoulder, just as though you were talking to me, and the voice said, you have one more. And I was enveloped from head to toe with the greatest warmth and peace, and just, I was just completely enveloped from head to toe. And so excited because the Lord had answered, finally, a prayer I'd prayed so long for. And then I knew I had Mary. And so I thought, okay, we have our family.
So if that prayer wasn't answered, we wouldn't be here tonight.
That's right. And then...
Yeah, but she didn't have to wait that long for her answer. I mean, it was, what, a year and 3 months?
Mine was, no, it was 8 months. It was after, from the time I received the blessing till the time I got the answer was 8 months. But then, a few years later,
Surprise!
I started hearing this still quiet, peaceful voice that said, you're to adopt. Well, abortion had just become the thing, and everybody was having abortions, and there weren't kids available, and especially there weren't kids available for a family that has 6 kids in 9 years, and the youngest is 3.5, 4. And so I would argue, don't argue with the Spirit. But I'd argue and I'd say, there's no one that's going to give us a child with 6 little kids. And I kept hearing the same voice saying, you're to adopt. And I heard that from September to Christmas time. And at Christmas time, it was no longer that still, small, quiet voice. It was the same voice, same area, said, "You are to adopt and do it now." And so then I told Dad about it. And he said, "I'd be willing to foster a child and adopt if it worked out right." Well, and so then, and I was also told that it would be a dark-complected little girl. And
Well, we had 2 boys,
Nathan and Christopher.
in foster care.
yeah, and we're willing to adopt them, but Dad wouldn't let them go.
Their mother had taken off and left the dad with them, and he couldn't care for them, but he did get to where he could care for them. But anyway, so one morning, my mother calls me on the phone. and
We
I
were
s-
on a trip.
Well, no, this is before that.
Oh,
Mother calls me on the phone, and she says, "Linda?" And I said, "Oh, you have my little girl." Dead silence. And then when she could speak, she finally says, "How did you know I have a little girl?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know how I just said that." And she said, "Well, my uncle and a friend had been missionary teaching a family in Costa Mesa. And they took in foster children from the time they were born until they were about 3 years old. And they knew of this little girl that was available that they had been foster parents for. She was available for adoption, and my brother and his wife had just lost a little girl a year earlier. She was born with a heart on the wrong side. And she said, I don't want any more children unless they're 2 or 3. We'll adopt." So my mother and my uncle had thought, well, she would be perfect for them. And so I thought, okay, if that's the way it is. But then somehow I got to meet Cindy. That my folks told my brother and his wife, who had moved up to BYU and were up here, if you want to adopt a girl, then you need to come back to California, move back to California and take her as a foster child until you can adopt her. And so they did. Well, then it turned out that I knew, because I knew she belonged to us. And so I was just so happy when it didn't work out for my brother that it worked out for us. There was no doubt in my mind but what Cindy was the one that the Lord wanted us to have, and we wanted her. And the kids shouted for joy when they heard you were coming. We all did. And you were a challenge from minute one. And we dearly love you and are so grateful to have you as part of the family. And each one of you are here for a reason, and we love deeply each one of you and all of our grandkids and great-grandkids.